Why do Scorpios confuse other Scorpios? And more directly, what is the difference between Scorpio Rising, Scorpio Sun, Scorpio Moon? If you have these Scorpio placements and you want to see the difference between your other Scorpio sisters and brothers, this is the video for you. I've been requested to do this video so many times, and I've given it a lot of care and study to deliver a very high quality video for you guys. I'm really going to do a mixture of my opinion, also going to give you some celebrity examples of the placements, and I might even throw in some personal stories, who knows. Hi, I'm Mina, your favorite Pisces astrologer, and I love doing astrology videos for you just like this, where we dive deeply into interesting, currently relevant astrological topics. But I really am most passionate about relationship astrology, full disclosure. If you like content like this, I invite you to subscribe to my channel, ring the bell, like this video, share it with a friend, but most importantly, talk with me in the comments, share your life experience with your Scorpio Rising, Scorpio Sun, Scorpio Moon. Those type of comments where you're talking to me about your personal life is so valuable to me, and I think it's so brave of you to lend something so personal to the body of astrological knowledge. So thank you so much, you rock. All right, today's video is a little bit of a touchy topic. You know, Scorpios are super competitive. They're ruled by Mars, the planet of war. So they want to be the best. I do want to ask that if you disagree with me, Scorpios, in the comments, that's totally fine. I want you to give me the real, your authentic response. Just make it polite and respectful. That's all I ask. But don't censor yourself to an inauthentic way. I don't want that. So yeah, competitive vibes here. All Scorpios want to be the best, and they also smell each other. They have this talent. I call Scorpios a predatory water sign. They're like sharks, and they can smell blood in the water from far away. Even if they don't know astrology, they have this talent, this superpower of picking up on other people, especially if they have Scorpio energy. It's like they just know. And they know that's a big opportunity for them to connect in that deep, authentic, intense way that they love to do with other people. And when it doesn't work out, I think it's a big bummer. And it can leave a Scorpio salty when they don't connect with another Scorpio. So yeah, as astrology gets more popular, people are fixating on Scorpio. It's like the world's favorite sign. And I really do think that's a reflection of us being kind of in a loneliness epidemic, relationship epidemic, maybe even sexual epidemic. Scorpio is a pretty sweet deal, that fantasy of a forever lover. So yeah, I get it. But there are differences between these placements, and they show up differently in people. Remember, this video is my opinion and my opinion only. However, my opinion is based in years at this point of doing professional astrology and having repeat clients, which I think is such a blessing. I love my regulars and I love new clients as well. Especially love my live clients because we get to know each other very deeply. So yeah, it's coming from a lot of experience, and also I've been studying astrology since I was 16. I'm college educated, and even more importantly than that, I just have always observed people's behavior and lined it up with the astrology. And I've formed pattern recognition in my brain. Like, I see things that repeat in people energetically. And I think that's what makes me a good astrologer. So that's where the opinion's coming from. Scorpio Rising, let's start with you. So if you've gotten a reading with me, you definitely have been recommended this book. I love this book by Robert Hand called Planets in Youth. Very simple astrology book, but deep at the same time. He breaks down complex stuff in a really simple to understand way. I want to read what Robert says about the rising sign, also referred to as the ascendant. The ascendant in your horoscope indicates the ways in which you interact with the world around you. The sign of the ascendant is as important as the sun sign, as its effects are often more obvious to other people because it represents how your personality appears to others. Yeah, I agree and disagree. I agree that the rising sign is super important and it is visible. It changes every 2 hours, a rising sign in your chart. So even if you're born on the same day as someone else, your rising sign is going to be different, and that's going to add layers to your personality, color to your personality. It's going to show how the houses are laid out in your chart. I'm a whole sign astrologer, so the houses line up like exact. So it really does color your chart in a very personalized way. Where I disagree is that I don't think it's more important than the sun sign. I think it's like equally important, but we'll go into that later. In a more simple way, the way I like to view the rising sign is your mindset, which dictates your worldview, which is the energy that you use to make decisions. I want you to think back to when you were a kid and think about your rising sign, what that symbolizes, and how you reacted to things, how you process things. I bet a lot of that's going to line up with the rising sign energy in your chart. It is a layer of protecting ourselves, but I think it's our first energetic layer of interacting with the world, again, and making decisions, keeping our physical bodies safe, because the rising sign is connected to that first house in whole sign astrology, and that dictates our physical body for the most part. So enter Scorpio rising. I think that Scorpio rising is a legitimate Scorpio placement because this is someone's worldview. This is someone who has oftentimes a very negative worldview. They see the darkness all around them. The world is like a scary, dark place, filthy. And they're kind of interested in diving deep into that filth to understand it more. I find that Scorpio risings are very, very self-protective people. Of course, you know, they're ruled by Mars and Pluto, so that's a very heavy armor to protect yourself with on a daily basis. How do they protect themselves? I think it's through secrecy, through mystery. A lot of times Scorpio rising behavior, like typical Scorpionic behavioral traits, are not fully visible in a Scorpio rising person. They could have a very sophisticated social mask. I'm not saying the rising sign is a mask. I think some signs utilize the rising sign energy to hide, especially Scorpio, maybe even Pisces rising. These are very private signs. They find safety in hiding themselves. Yet where they cannot hide, you know, they can't hide very much from another Scorpio, but also they can't hide physically because, again, in whole sign astrology, that first house is linked to your physical body, so that Scorpio energy and the body is infused. Even if the Scorpio rising is on really good socially acceptable behavior, because they kind of learn that the real world rejects their Scorpio rising outward traits, they learn to have a mask to survive in the world, much like Aries rising, honestly. Although I think Scorpio risings are way more sophisticated. They really can't hide physically. Like that Scorpio energy leaks from the eyes. And I think out of all the Scorpio placements, Scorpio rising have the most beautiful Scorpio stare that fixates on someone and shows that they're paying attention to you in that very sometimes uncomfortable way. Scorpio rising wins the first place medal in Scorpio staring contest for sure. And you can see this through the celebrity examples that I will mention. I also find that Scorpio risings have resting bitch face because it is a very severe energy to have, like as your rising sign, connected with your physical body. What else makes them different is that even though they do have a social mask, because they learn that the world kind of rejects their intense Scorpio behavioral traits, their chaotic, turmoil nature, they are impulsive in their decisions. I find because the first house, especially in whole sign astrology, is linked to the sign of Aries, and Aries is very quick. It's the cardinal Mars sign, fire, and I find that every rising sign in whole sign astrology, especially, is like the quicker version of the sign. I think they're the most impulsive Scorpios. Again, they can have very socially acceptable behavior, like in a superficial way, but their life decisions, especially with relationships, can be very erratic, very impulsive. And I find that this is where they kind of have a lot of pain because they go so hard in terms of hiding themselves in that Scorpio way, yet their decisions kind of leak out and people will be like, oh, like Scorpio risings can surprise the hell out of people with their impulsive decisions because they have that really good, well-crafted social mask. And again, most of the impulsivity I've found as a professional astrologer and just having Scorpio risings in my life is the impulsive decisions around relationships. Remember that your rising sign and whole sign astrology will always be linked to your relationship house, which is the opposite, the seventh house associated with Libra. That's how you show up in a relationship and what you seek in relationships. And it can also be kind of your shadow side. And a big shadow side of a Scorpio rising is being very hedonistic. And maybe sometimes, I don't want to call them lazy. They're not lazy. I would say that they tap out in the Scorpio behavioral sense, like being in emotionally charged situations and chaotic situations that Scorpios just love, drugs, all that forbidden stuff, taboo stuff that Scorpio loves. Scorpio risings, of course, are drawn to it like any other Scorpio, but I think they tap out and they need even more time in an extreme state of rest to kind of show up as a Scorpio again in the world. So yeah, I think that their Scorpio staying power in terms of like staying in the Scorpio energy is interrupted by that Taurus seventh house. So it's okay, Scorpio risings. You're still Scorpios. I think you just need breaks from yourself in that way, and that's totally fine. It's okay to recognize that you have to recharge to show up as a Scorpio, because being a Scorpio is not an easy thing. I definitely can see that. So yeah, I think another demon they wrestle with, leaning more on the hedonism spectrum, Taurus in the relationship house is ruled by Venus. It's fixed, planet of love and pleasure. Earth sign, I really do think that they seek a partner who stabilizes them and grounds them. And in turn, that partner inspires like that provider energy in the Scorpio rising. Like I can find that they could be really big financial providers in a relationship, even the women. I think that, but they need that grounding essence in exchange. And oftentimes they find simple people very grounding. Like they want to be the chaotic person. They don't want their partner to be chaotic, even though they can be drawn to Scorpios that kind of bring out that chaos energy. I feel like they will get tapped out though. Like the staying power is not going to be super strong in that Scorpio arena of intense relationships because of that Taurus energy contesting that. So yeah, I think that they love simple, grounded people, yet the other demon is they can be kind of superficial in relationships. They could be really focused on the earth stuff, like how someone looks, like how beautiful they are. And this really internally incites a war inside of a Scorpio rising because they know, they're Scorpios, they know that's superficial and it plagues them. Don't think it doesn't. Their superficial nature in relationships is like a torment for them, yet it is a part of them. So it's really hard for them to find like the right body with the right heart in a relationship. But these people, they're fixed in their rising sign energy, their mindset, and their relationship house. So I do think that even though they can be impulsive, eventually they slow down and they can be very dedicated to a partner. A celebrity example I love to use is Lana Del Rey, who just had a very impulsive Scorpio rising wedding to an alligator swamp tour guide in, of all places, Louisiana. Very out there. And to me, that's very in line with their Scorpio rising and Taurus 7th house. While this guy is nothing to look at, like he is not that Adonis man goddess that a Taurus 7th house I think symbolizes, I do think he checks the simple box. He seems like a very simple blue collar type of guy. And of course that gives her like a position of power in the relationship as a famous Scorpio rising person. But yeah, I think she's enamored with his simplicity as grounding for her because as a Scorpio rising, she doesn't want the eyeballs on her. And she has that Leo midheaven. I think she likes some visibility, but her mindset is like she wants a private life. And I think that's why she has a very complicated relationship with celebrity. Yeah, Scorpio risings are very, very private Scorpios. Yet they can't hide their impulsivity, their Scorpio decisions. But they do reveal themselves as a Scorpio to people close with them, like their family, close friends and of course their lovers will see that those traditional, almost like the Scorpio Sun behavioral traits, intense reactions, intense anger, intense everything. They don't hide with the comfortable people because they don't feel like they're threatened, you know? And I know that Lana's husband has some yucky political views. Like, I definitely don't share those views myself. But thinking of her as a Scorpio person, a Scorpio rising, and especially like I love her music, I hear the depth in her lyrics. Her lyrics are very emotionally charged. I really do think like a typical Scorpio. Maybe she thinks like her love will transform her husband's worldviews and maybe make him more open-minded. Scorpios love a challenge and they love to change something big about their special person. Maybe I'm just being an optimistic, naive Pisces observing this, but I just try to give people the benefit of the doubt, especially if I am a fan of theirs, like I am of Lana. I also want to say before I forget, her Taurus 7th house, like the hedonistic, superficial song of hers, I think is Blue Jeans. That illustrates it very well. And also, on the more typical Scorpio side, definitely A&W is a very sad song. Cinnamon Girl, Dark Paradise. You see her show up emotionally because Scorpio is a water sign as a Scorpio in those songs. And I just think she's so beautiful in her picture. She has that like powerful look about her, like all the Scorpio risings do, and it does emit a sex appeal. She's always like smoking in her pictures, which is like very Scorpio rising, like beautiful with the unsavory things type of deal. Yeah, just love her to bits. But yeah, are you worried about her marriage? Let me know in the comments. I also want to give a Scorpio risings a trophy for being the most sexual. I will stand on this. I do find them the most sexual of the Scorpios. Like, that they actually show up as a high libido person in their relationships? Absolutely. Now, do they want the emotional connection like a lot of Scorpios? Yes, but that physical body matters a lot. Like, don't think it doesn't to them. Yeah, they're the most sexual, I find. I do find that they don't talk to the whole world about it, though. Maybe like a Scorpio Sun would. Again, they're slightly more private than the Scorpio Sun with the sex stuff, with everything, basically, especially secrets, very private. Another Scorpio rising celebrity that I absolutely love is Biba Doobie. She's a young up-and-coming rock artist, and I just love her music. She's very sexy, like she has that Scorpio vibe in her physical body, like all Scorpio risings seem to have. Yet she is like a light and airy Gemini sun and moon. However, in whole sign astrology, that sun and moon is in the 8th house of Scorpio. So there is a layer of depth there. I do think that Biba Doobie, you can hear the Scorpio stuff in her music, especially the song Sorry. I love how she says in that song that she likes to be in a dark place with the people she's in love with, but she mentioned in this song that her partner stayed there a little bit more. I think that shows like the Gemini energy not being able to hang in there like the Scorpio energy could when someone's in a dark place. But I think that's just like a very honest snapshot of these two very awkward energies together in someone's chart, but they're both real for sure. I also love her song, How Was Your Day? Back to Mars. Again, very Scorpio. Talk, I think, is more lighthearted Gemini, let's have fun, but also very Scorpio. Like when she mentions gum on the shoes, to me that's like very dirty, and dirty things are like Scorpio. Scorpios love dirty things, but yeah, she uses like that dirty imagery in her music. Love her so much, and I think she also has a little bit of an impulsive nature in relationships. She is very young, but I think she's changed partners a couple of times, which is not inherently bad. Hey, I'm a mutable person. I'm a Pisces, so that's very change positive. I'm just mentioning it because when we're sold the dream of Scorpio, we think of like a lot of staying power within a romantic situation. Let's not forget Scorpio risings, I think, are a little quicker. They're the impulsive, quick Scorpios. So still Scorpios, though, still Scorpios. And they do, again, face an inner war with their impulsivity and their superficiality. Like, they're tormented by these two very different parts of them, and I just love them so much. Another Scorpio rising, very retro, I want to mention is Ann Wilson, the lead singer of Heart, that 80s band. I love, my favorite heart song is Never. I wasn't existing in the world at that time, but I just love that song. And you can really like see that she's very visually Scorpio, like very intense, sexy. And the lyrics, of course, she did help write a lot of songs, showed that Scorpio depth. A little dramatic flair because she has a Leo moon, you know. I think the most Scorpio heart song is Alone because it talks about someone who loves another person so much, but it's invisible because they haven't like told the person that they love them. That's so Scorpio, like that Phantom of the Opera type of love, invisible love. Very, very Scorpio. Oh my God, her sister, the blonde one, she's my chart twin. And I made a deal with God. I'm like, there's too many Pisces, Sun, Aries, Venus women like me that are badass female rock stars. I'm like, in the next life, I have to do this chart right. I have to be a female rock star. I'm an astrologer, so that's still cool. Okay, story time. My first boyfriend ever was a Scorpio rising. We knew each other since elementary school. He was a Libra sun too. And he's actually my only ex that I don't have like bad feelings for. Like, we're cool. There's nothing vicious between us. But I think his Scorpio energy loved my water energy, my Pisces sun. He was in love with me emotionally. But I think that his Libra part and that Taurus 7th house, he did not like the way I looked. I do not think I was good looking enough for him at that time because how I look, like the weird town I come from, this is not like what's popular. Times have changed, of course, but you know, oddly enough, we started dating once he dropped out of school and he was exempt from the social pressures of liking me. So yeah, but we fought all the time. Oh my God, I find like Scorpio rising people are very stressful for me because I have an Aries rising. So we're both like control freaks, you know? And I remember one of the controlling things he had is that he wanted to dictate what music I could listen to because he was a musician. And he had way more fixed music tastes than me. I'm an Aries Venus, so I love new music. It's square my Cancer moon, so I have nostalgia going on as well. I love oldies, but he hated that I like new music. And of course, like years ago, we talked as adults and we were laughing about it and telling each other, like, I told him all the secret bands I liked that I knew he would condemn, and it was just really funny. But anyway, that's my personal experience with Scorpio rising. My favorite Scorpio risings, however, are the ones with Moon and Venus there. It softens the energy up in the most delectable way, and I love it. I love it. It's like the intensity, but the softness, way more kind. And I really appreciate that because it trines my Cancer moon, your Scorpio Venus. But yeah, love you guys so much. Scorpio risings, I find that so many of them are musicians. I think they can channel that rage and that depth from, like the rage from Mars and the depth from Pluto within the element of water of being creative. And I feel like they're just amazing musicians. I love me a Scorpio rising musician so much. I feel like this is the Scorpio Emmy Awards, but a Scorpio award I want to give Scorpio rising is that the impatience you have does give you a gift, and I think that out of all the Scorpios, you could see through people the quickest, and it's really wild to witness it. Like, you could just make really quick, deep, snap judgments about people that, for the most part, are pretty accurate, for sure. Now let's get to you, Scorpio suns. You're the most theatrical, the most loud and out there Scorpios, for sure. You're a shining star. Your sun is in the sign of Scorpio, the sign of sex and death. So yeah, you are legit badass Scorpios, my Scorpio suns. And I want to read an excerpt out of Robert's book, Planets and Youth, what he says about the sun. The sun in your chart represents your basic personality drives and behavior patterns, the kinds of activities you prefer, and the way you assert yourself towards others. The sun always represents your desire to be important. And I find this to be very true. And when I think of Scorpio suns, I like to think of this 80s rock band, the Smiths. They have a song called There's a Light That Never Goes Out. That's how I visualize the sun energy in someone's chart. So your Scorpio energy, it it's there. It's never not present. Maybe when you're sleeping, but when you're up, you're Scorpio in terms of your outward behavior. And I find that Scorpio suns, even though all Scorpio placements have an element of being private and secretive, I find that Scorpio suns are the least secretive Scorpios. I know that maybe some of you Scorpio suns will cringe at this, but hear me out. I find that Scorpio suns overshare, like big time overshare about their traumatic experience and the darkness in their life, their secrets. And as a Pisces sun who's super private, it's very alarming when I witness Scorpio suns oversharing. I'm like, why are you saying that? Why are you, why? But I really think they're brave. They're the bravest of Scorpios in terms of just laying it out there and testing people. I think they test people by overexposing themselves because they want to see if someone can meet them on that very raw, intense, authentic level. Like, hey, if I tell you that my dad died when I was 6 years old and that really made my life hell, how are you going to respond to that amount of depth and authenticity? Like if you're just like, oh, I'm sorry to hear that, and you kind of give them a platitude, that's going to be a big Scorpio sun turnoff because that shows them that you can't really go deep. And I find them very non-compromising about seeking depth in the world. And I think they're so proud of it. Like they're very proud of that depth-seeking part of them. I also find them the most consistently obsessive, the most consistently mean. They really do have that mean side of them that I think maybe even Scorpio risings don't show as much. I think Scorpio risings will show like their anger when someone like threatens them outwardly and pisses them off. Then you're gonna get the stinger from them for sure. Or they'll show it to people who actually know them. But with Scorpio suns, I find that they can be kind of known to be mean to other people and aggressive. But I'm not saying it's necessarily bad. It's just a component of your personality. Just like an Aries sun can maybe be the same as you in that way, like synonymous with being mean in terms of their attitude towards things and having the ability to be outwardly aggressive. I also find Scorpio suns, like how I said Scorpio risings kind of tap out and they need long breaks from themselves in terms of being intense and emotional. I find that Scorpio suns, they have a higher reservoir for all things Scorpio. Like if you're in a chaotic situation, Scorpio suns thrive. They're so proud of being steady and not freaking out visibly in a chaotic situation. So if you have something dark going on, especially emotionally because they're a water sign, they can hang in there with you and they don't lose patience easily with that type of stuff. So I find them very special in that way. And yeah, I think that they can lose patience with Scorpio risings because maybe they sense like, hey, you're taking breaks from being a Scorpio, like you move so quick. Like Scorpio suns, I find they're so much more steady. They're way more fixed in terms of not being super impulsive. And maybe like the Scorpio rising nature, which is kind of different, like throws them off. Like there's a lack of continuity from the Scorpio sun point of view. And I can see that, although I still think both of you are Scorpios, I still think that. And I do think that Scorpio suns, going back to how they want to connect with people, I also find them highly plutonic in their nature. They like to unearth things about people and they like to be the only one. Oh my God, Scorpio sun's biggest bragging rights is when they can open up a really closed off person. They love telling a group of people like, oh, well, that person opened up to me. Like they love being special in that way for sure. I think Scorpio risings also very plutonic and want to open people up for sure. And people in a large scale, like the sun. I just find that maybe their quickness in doing that can throw people off, whereas the sun, I think again, like they aren't as quick in my observation. So maybe that makes the person a little bit more calm in terms of opening up on their own terms. Yeah, Scorpio suns, I find them very patient, in other words. I do find that two factors can weaken a Scorpio sun. Number one is a Mars in fall or detriment. Mars is not happy in the sign of Cancer, Taurus, and Libra. So if you're a Scorpio and your Mars is in fall or detriment, that's ruling that Scorpio energy. It's not that you're real Scorpios, it could just make the energy harder to handle for you and harder to bring out the beautiful gifts of that energy and harder to present the energy in a positive light to others and create things from it that are really good for your life. And I find that you could copy paste that for the rising and the moon, because yeah, a Mars that struggles is going to make the Scorpio energy harder to drive for the individual. But of course, like a typical Scorpio, you know, they're mysterious and secretive still, even though they overexpose, in my opinion. They will always tell you, like, you think you know something about me? You just think you know. And part of me believes them because I know Scorpios are super private. Yet part of me is just like, that's their ego protecting itself from people thinking that they know something about them, which they might actually know something about them, which makes it very scary for that Scorpio sun to really sit with that. It kind of like evens the power level. You know, Scorpios love power. So let's talk about celebrity examples. I really love Julia Roberts, a retro example. She really aligned her image with something very Scorpio, a prostitute, something unsavory, right? In Pretty Woman, that 90s movie. And she looked very confident, like it didn't bother her at all. She killed it in that role. She was very beautiful too in that role. And I just find that confidence with taboo things present in a Scorpio sun and very admirable. More contemporary example would be Penn Badgley. I think that's how you say his last name. He is the main actor in Netflix's You series. He's like the stalker, obsessive Scorpio guy in the series. Maybe even a sex addict or something. And he seems just so cool with playing someone like that. Like, it really interests him, and he doesn't look awkward in that role at all to the visible eye. And I think he even has a podcast where he like talks to child stars about the dark secrets of being a child star, the trauma and everything, which is very Scorpio to want to do something like that on such a visible scale. I also love SZA and her song Kill Bill. I think that's so Scorpio, like, I just killed my ex, not the best idea, rather be in hell than alone. I feel like that's a very like edgy Scorpio statement, very edgelord thing to put out there. Yeah, I think that's kind of like how I see Scorpio suns. I'm sure there's so many more examples. If you know more celebrity Scorpio sun examples, put them in the comments. Scorpio suns, what do you think about how I perceive you as different? I would love to know what you think in the comments. And I do find that Scorpio suns, even though the sun isn't necessarily a romantic planet, it's something we can't turn off. So if your solar energy is in Scorpio, you're going to show up as a Scorpio in your relationship to some degree. So yeah, I think Scorpio suns are very reliable, but can be kind of mean. Don't piss them off. All right. I want to bridge the gap a little bit and read another excerpt from this book. You know, I love this book. Robert Hand says, "You may run into problems, however, if your rising sign is quite different in nature from your sun sign, because there is a conflict between an element of your inner self and the way you appear to others. This is not usually because you're dishonest, but because there's a real conflict between different parts of yourself. When you deal with people, you may feel that there are two yous." I think this is so important to say because I really do think that the rising sign and the sun sign are equally important, and they are equally, okay, lesser degree in Scorpio rising, but they're obvious to some degree. Like when you meet someone, you're going to see both of those energies, the rising sign energy and the sun energy, pretty quickly. And whether we like it or not, our rising sign and our sun sign work together in terms of first impressions. They're in an awkward relationship for life in terms of our visible persona. So if you're like me, if you're in Club Complicated, if your rising sign is super different from your sun sign, I'm an Aries rising and I'm a Pisces sun. So that's like worlds apart, right? You're going to send a big mixed message to other people. Where I disagree with Robert, earlier he said that sometimes you can see the rising sign first. I think that that's not true. And the more I do astrology on a professional level and even look into my own chart, I'm like, it's so unpredictable. I find that Scorpio rising people, especially because they can hide pretty well, sometimes that really sweet Libra sun is going to come out, that peacemaker energy. And then intermittently the Scorpio, it's like a back and forth. You never know. For me, sometimes people automatically identify me as a very kind Pisces, very quiet person, very soft person. And then like the Aries rising devil horns come out. And I don't have resting bitch face. I think I have resting uninterested face, because as an Aries rising, if I'm not feeling it, if I'm not interested in something going on around me, it's really hard to hide that. And when I'm pissed off, even if I don't say anything, you'll see it through my eyes, like the fire. So yeah, it's a complicated relationship. So Scorpio rising people, if you have a vastly different sun sign, this is why people can get mixed signals about you. And conversely, if you're a Scorpio sun, if you have a different rising sign, again, a mixed signal, and it is just a different layer. I've had so many positive experiences with Scorpio suns. The closest person to my heart is a Scorpio sun, and another Scorpio sun that's very close to my heart is my college friend. We'll call her A. We had a very intense relationship in college, like very close, very quickly. We had that water connection, you know, and then we had a nasty fight. And we just reconnected right before my mom got sick and died. And even though we hadn't seen each other in years, that girl was at my mom's funeral. She was in my brother's house helping me clean and stuff. Like, that is like a Scorpio sun. Like, so authentic and so deep. Like, I loved and appreciated her so much for that, and I still do to this day. If you have a Scorpio sun friend, cherish them so much, because they really are diamonds, in my opinion. I want to say before I go into the moon that Scorpio rising and Scorpio sun have way more similarities than with the moon, because it's a component of what people see on the outside, the rising and the sun sign. I just think that the staying power with Scorpio energies is very different between the rising and the sun. I think that's why you guys kind of intrigue each other. And yes, you fight, but about who's the most Scorpio, but I think there is a connection there, you know? Let's talk about Scorpio moon. Scorpio moon, oh my God, I love Scorpio moon so much. I find that you are the Scorpio placement that is not visible to the naked eye. I think that a Scorpio moon is visible to the people who can see it and who can appreciate it, because that will make a Scorpio moon kind of come out of their shell. They can have a vastly different chart, like they can have an Aquarius sun, a Gemini rising, and in their personality, you will see that air, lightheartedness, and, you know, wanting to be cool. You will only see that Scorpio moon if there's a romantic link or an intense emotional connection. Like if the Scorpio moon is like really attached to their mom, to their father, to their aunt, to their friend, you will see it then. But even within their safe people, I think that they're the slowest moving Scorpios. The sun is pretty steady. I don't think they're super, super impulsive. The moon is even slower in terms of Scorpio energy than the sun. It takes its time with love, because once it commits, it kind of is stuck for life. And if there's any reason that I'm annoyed that astrology is popular, it's because people know about Scorpio moons. And Scorpio moons, in my opinion, in my personal and professional opinion, get abused so much in love. And it makes me so angry, and it makes me just want to protect all of you so much, because you do have that heart that can love someone forever, and you can love someone through really hard, nasty things. It won't scare you away. And I think when you land in the wrong hands, it's so hard to watch, because you're so slow to commit. So once you're committed, it's very slow for you to detach from someone. And I find that even when Scorpio moons move on, there's a part of them that still holds on, even if it's just like a little baby pinky. It's so hard for them to permanently sever a relationship with someone they really loved, which makes them so special. But ooh, I just hate the pain that these people go through. It breaks my heart every single time. But it's like this bleeding heart effect is what makes them so special. That I really do think they're my favorite water moon, because they're the deepest heart, I think, in the zodiac. And I wish no one knew that. And I really resent that I'm even saying it right now. So I apologize to all my Scorpio moons for exposing that. And I do find that they expose themselves the least, like talking about secrets and deep, raw, authentic things. I think they're way slower to go there with other people, even other Scorpios. They have to feel like very comfortable, like they're in very trusted company to reveal themselves. I kind of view them like invisible ink. It's like if you see, you see, but if you don't, you don't. So yeah, very slow to do all the Scorpio things. They're sexual just like all the other Scorpios, but I think the main selling point of them is their connection. Their ability to emotionally connect to others is astounding. Like, I'm a Cancer moon. I thought I was good at that, and I thought I was bad at letting go of love, but Scorpio moons beat me by a million miles, for sure. No one can secretly snoop on you like a Scorpio moon, especially if their other signs are nothing like Scorpio. Like, they're really naturally observant, the moons where we get our gifts, but it's just not visible. Maybe to other Scorpios, but for people like me who aren't Scorpio, like, I'm always impressed with how sneaky they are in terms of like digging into you in a very not obvious way. I feel like they do it very non-verbally. I feel like a Scorpio moon is the true observer. Like, I don't find that they ask probing questions as much as the rising and sun. It's like they just can naturally see through things, and maybe they can't even explain it well. They're just really good at observing behavior in a very quiet, not obvious way. Sneaky, sneaky, sneaky. Kind of retro, but Ben Affleck and J-Lo, they, like true Scorpio moons, both of them are Scorpio moons, and oddly enough, both of them are Leos. I don't know the rising signs. If you know them, if you can comment them, I'd appreciate that. They're a great example of a messy Scorpio moon connection. Like, just, it's like once a Scorpio moon falls in love, it's like a cancer that keeps metastasizing. No matter how much pain, no matter how much it kills you, and you're dying inside, you're just gonna stay and stay and stay. And I feel like they've gotten married twice. And even after the latest divorce, they've been spotted together. It's that they're not good at quitting. They're not good at quitting an emotional connection at all. And I think that they're a prime example of that. I do think that Ben Affleck is the more Scorpio out of the two because he's a little bit more private. Keep in mind, Leo and Scorpio are square to each other. So the sun squaring the moon kind of alters both energies, right? Like, the energies are leaking and infusing into each planet because there's that aspect. I find that Ben Affleck's more private and J-Lo is way more Leo and out there. And I think that he felt very betrayed when J-Lo leaked the love letters he wrote her with all of his Scorpio moon deep feelings. They don't want that exposed. I really find that when a Scorpio moon is in love with you, they want that love between you and that person to be in this magical void. And you keep all the love, all the secrets, all the intimacy inside of that void, and you don't share it with the outside world. It's like once you share it with the world, the magic is gone type of deal. That's just what I'm theorizing as an astrologer. Another Scorpio moon I love is Janae Aiko. She's a Pisces Sun Scorpio moon. You can obviously tell she has a very big heart, and she doesn't seem to move on quickly from relationships. I think Scorpio moons, again, they are the ones that move the slowest in terms of relationships. Another Scorpio moon example, I don't want to laugh saying this, is Avril Lavigne, and I'm not laughing at her. I'm laughing at Chad Kroeger. Chad Kroeger is the lead singer of Nickelback, very cringe rock band. He's the Scorpio Sun, she's the Scorpio moon. And even though they had a really long-lasting marriage, they broke up. and they still connect. And I think that's mostly because of Avril. I think she is a Scorpio moon, just can't quit fully anyone she's loved. So yeah, they still have a pretty decent relationship apparently, which I find fascinating. Of course, we can't end this video without mentioning The Weeknd, Abel Tesfaye. He's our probably most famous Scorpio moon that people love to gush about. And although I do think he's a great artist, and obviously you can see Scorpio themes in his lyrics and stuff, I do find that we can't ignore that square to his sun in Aquarius. He is a Cancer rising, which means that the Scorpio moon does rule his chart. For sure, that's important. But it's square that Aquarius sun. Yet the Aquarius sun is in the 8th house. That is a house of Scorpio. There's depth, but that square to Aquarius, even in the 8th house, is going to create an emotional disconnect, some iciness, that classic Aquarius ice, evil computer energy. And you can kind of see it, most importantly, play out in his life. Like, yes, he has a Scorpio moon bleeding heart, like he can attach for a long time, as he did with Selena Gomez and Bella Hadid especially. I think those are his only two real loves in his life. Yet, I do feel like there is some Aquarius non-committal, want to be independent, free, forever bachelor vibes from him. And I do find that if you have an Aquarius Scorpio square in your chart, this is why it's so hard. It's that drive to be detached and free, light as air, and independent as hell, yet with that Scorpio energy that really wants to be super emotionally close to someone. That's hard. And you can definitely see it in this man's life. Who knows if he'll ever settle down? I hope for his Scorpio moon that he does, for sure. In terms of my personal experience with Scorpio moons, my college friend had a Scorpio moon, the one I mentioned in the sun section. Very deep, loyal heart. Like, they won't forget you. And as a Cancer moon, I'm like, that's the best feeling ever. And my nephew's a Scorpio moon, and oh my God, he's coming in to his teenage years, and with his first experiences with love, it's already killing me, you guys. I just want to wrap him up in bubble wrap and protect him forever. I'm already seeing the Scorpio moon come out, and I'm so proud and so scared at the same time. But anyway, if you're young Scorpio, or if you can remember your young Scorpio moon years, give me some tips to help my nephew in the comments. I would appreciate that so much. So I really hope you loved today's video. I hope you felt understood and above all respected. I hope you all feel like real Scorpios. To recap, I think this rising and the sun are more visible. The moon is just very asterisk. It's like the Scorpio moon's always there because that's how we feel, but it's not visible to many. That's the main difference, is to put it in a nutshell. I hope all my Scorpios love this video. I want to know what you really think. Just be polite. That's all I ask. And try not to fight with each other in the comments, please. Also, let's just be human for a moment. I think it's okay. It's normal to want to relate to other people when we smell similarities. I'm an Aries rising, and when I'm around an Aries sun, I like to relate to them in that Aries way. Likewise with the moon. I think that's just a normal human thing. So maybe that can just like calm down the competitiveness of who's the most Scorpio, because you're all Scorpios. It just manifests differently. I hope I made that clear in this video, if nothing else. All right, you guys, I will see you in the next one. Bye.